Oh, the light is so bright. Try to make sure my head blocks it. So, this video is about living under one roof in polygynous marriages. The pros and the cons of that. Before I'll get into the pros and cons, I want to talk about women entering into polygynous families that are coming from out of state. When typically when a woman is entering in polygyny, she is, over 18, 20, 25, or whatever the case may be. And this woman, if it's a long distance situation, chances are she'll move from her state to wherever her husband and his family is. So, women, and I've heard about this so many times, women are literally leaving their states, leaving their support systems, their comfort zones, they're leaving everything and moving in with their husband. And if your husband wants everyone under the same roof, if the husband wants everyone under the same roof, then there you have it. Everyone's going to be under the same roof. So first, like I said, let me address women moving cross country. I would advise any woman entering into a long distance relationship, be it polygynous or not, with the idea of moving with her husband and his family. I would suggest that she secures herself. I don't want to make this seem divisive or anything, but I've heard of situations where things didn't work out and the woman was basically put out. I've heard of situations where, the woman basically uproots her entire life. Ooh, uproots her entire life only for the wife that is already there to quote unquote get tired of her and is ready for her to leave. And the woman and her children are basically put out. That is something that has happened multiple times in multiple relationships that I know about. And it's hard to gauge what's right and what's wrong in those situations. But one thing that is certain, and that is women are at times put in situations and at times put themselves in situations where they are in an unfavorable I can't do this while I'm reading the comments. I'm sorry. They find themselves in an unfavorable situation. Sometimes broke. Sometimes the money is pooled together, and I've heard of situations where the husband requires his wives to give them his paychecks, and when things go wrong, whichever wife is to leave leaves and has nothing. And it's hard to start all the way over when you've basically left your entire support system to be married. Like I said, be it polygynous or not, because I'm sure this happens in monogamy too. But I just want to talk about in polygyny. There are situations where, like I said, the initial wife gets tired of polygyny. At one point in time, it was fun and games, and yeah, we all in the same house. Yay, we paint each other's nails, and things happen. And so now the first wife is pulling a tech, and it's like, I don't want to do polygyny anymore. It's time for her to go. And these women are being put out. with children and all. Um, there are situations where a polygynous situation is evolving and the incoming wife is trying to get the initial wife out of the picture. And sometimes that happens, and the husband will divorce his initial wife. And now he has his new wife or whatever. And then he finds out that everything isn't all what it seemed to be. And so now he ends up with no wife. Or there are situations where a man is like, I want to be polygynous. Polygyny is my right, it's my nature. And he forces his initial wife's hand and divorces her because she's not polygynous minded or ready to be in polygyny. And he divorces her only to wind up with no women. So, in a situation, all right, I'm gonna get to my topic. In a situation where everyone is under one roof, some of the pros are all the children in the house get a full time father, and all of the wives in the house have a full time husband. Time division is easier. Trying to think of pros. If the women get along, then you know typically they're going to be friends. So you have someone in the house that is in in a relationship with the same man you're in a relationship in, and so you're able to bounce things off of each other. Depending on the situation, you might turn to each other for advice. Children are able to grow up together. Children are able to yeah, grow up together, meld. Some of the other pros, I should have wrote this stuff down, but I didn't because I was making my veggie burger. I don't know if you can see that. Looks like a pile of nothingness. There's a veggie burger here. I was making my veggie burger, and I said I was going to do this at 9:30, and I was late, so I didn't write this down. But so living under the same roof, children have a full-time father, wives have a full-time husband. Time division is easier. Um, it's one family, one unit, moving in the same direction. Uh, the protection for the wives is there. The thought is, how can he protect you if you live across town and down the street? You know, Another thought is, why take the husband out of the home with his children? Because now sometimes when the women live apart, the children suffer because now they have part-time fathers. So those are some of the pros. Some of the cons are some of the cons of living under one roof are um, some of the cons. So some of the I can't read the comments like I said. Some of the cons of living in the same house are, I guess, um, I don't even know what's going on. Um, some of the cons are the women, depending on the type of women that they are having to, is the word temper, or not be as intimate or affectionate with the husband as they would normally be because there's another woman there. So everyone is hypersensitive about offending other people. So it's like, my man is sitting there, and I want to sit on his lap, but how will she feel? So a lot of times people mention PDA. How do you deal with public displays of affection, even though it's not outside, but public displays of affection in the house if everyone is living in the same house? Some sisters are like, I like to walk around the house in negligee, and now this woman is here and I can't do that. Um, some of the other things are certain women are more inclined to want things in their house, especially if it's their house. It's been their house for 2 decades. They're particular on how they want their house to look. They're not so ready to let someone help them decorate or put a painting on the wall. There's some sisters that are like, nah, I designed this whole house. I am the interior designer and I design this house, and here she comes. She don't like earth tones, but I love earth tones. She's trying to have an accent wall that's maroon and or pink, and I'm not, for that. So some that's another con. Sometimes time division is also a factor if you're all living in the same house, because sometimes if if certain situations come up and you are an incoming wife and you're trying to figure yourself out, you tend to look towards their relationship as an example of what to expect in your relationship. And it takes you a long time to realize that relationship developed over time. So some women come in and they're like, he doesn't talk to me like he talks to her. Like I mentioned, what was it, yesterday? You know, he stays on the phone with her all day while she's at work, even though I'm here. And, so sometimes time division is a problem too. I'm trying to think of another con. There aren't many. I mean, there are definitely more pros and cons depending upon the type of relationship dynamic you have. Depending on if the wives get along, depending on if you and your husband are getting along, or if she and her husband are getting along. So it's like an ebb and flow there. And I promise to do a video on living in the same house, pros and cons. I can't think of anything else, so I'm probably going to go grab one or both of them and maybe kind of like force them to comment on my topic. I don't know. Let me try to catch up on these comments because I'm at 13 minutes, so I think I'm doing pretty good. Do you think a man can have all his women in bed with him? I mean, grown people do what grown people want to do, and if you are a polygynous man and you want your wives in the same bed with you, then so mote it be. The problem comes in when the different sexualities are involved, and now you are skirting or on your way out of polygyny and walking right into polyamory because you know your wives, or you are expecting your wives to be intimate with you while they're in the bed. I mean, that's a tricky situation. Like I said, grown people do what grown people want to do, but I'm not here to advise for or against it. I just know that it happens. I wouldn't mind having my wives in my bed beside me. I hear you, brother. Go for it. Go for it. Do that. Hey, grown people that decide they want to do certain things and it's working out for them, let it work out. Hey, I'm not for it. I'm not against it. I know it happens, but I do know, like I said, once certain sexualities and things start to happen, you start to find yourself right outside of polygyny and walking right into polyamory. So be careful with that one. In ancient times, I believe men had their wives in bed with them. I don't know. I was born in 1981, so I don't know about that. Should definitely be all in one household, yes. Like I said, there's pros and cons. There's pros and cons to both. Living in the same house, living separately. There's pros and cons to everything under the sun. I don't see a reason for having a separate household. Okay, so another thing about living in the same household is economically, it is easier on the husband, especially if the husband is the primary provider and maintainer of the family. Is financially easier for him. Sorry about the light. Is financially easier for him if everyone is living in the same household because you go from paying $1,200 a month for your mortgage, and now you paying another $1,200 a month for a mortgage. That's a whole $2,400, and that can be spent on other things like land and farm equipment and tools. I think I'm kind of blurry here, but so yeah, there are economic advantages to living in the same house. I know this is off topic, but do you see younger sisters in the polygynous community being raised to accept polygyny? Oddly enough, what I see is some women that are raised in polygyny, or some children that are raised in polygyny, grow up to not become polygynous. Some women, depending on the type of polygyny that they saw displayed in their households, will totally reject it, and some will accept it. It depends on what happened in that family dynamic. So there's no, one answer to that. As a younger man, this seems to be the only logical course to pursue sisters that are of raised in polygynous families that will accept it. Yeah, I mean, young people today have the advantage of instant information. So young people today do a lot more research, or not more research, but the information is readily available. So young women that are being raised in polygyny most likely are going to be religious. So they're most likely going to be Hebrew or Muslim or Mormon. So if you're not in one of those religions, I don't think that you should just outright go try to pluck a woman out of her religion, you know, pluck her out because she is being raised in a polygynous family, and decide that you want her because she, is raised in a polygynous household, so therefore it should be easier. I guess I'm explaining that right. I hope I am. No disrespect, but I just don't get polygyny, maybe because I'm bisexual. Well, I mean, there is a dynamic for you, and it's called polyamory. And polyamory is available for people that have various alities. And if a woman if a woman wants to share a man, then hey, multiple women married to the same man as polygyny. If you go into polyamory, you'll find all sorts of relationship dynamics. You know, a husband and wife are married. The husband has a girlfriend. The wife has a boyfriend or a girlfriend. The husband has a boyfriend. The wife has us. It gets strange in there. But if you don't believe that multiple women can exist in a polygynous marriage, but you're bisexual, I would venture to say you have an advantage because your bisexuality is widely accepted these days, whereas 20 years ago it wasn't. Polygyny has been ostracized for a long time. And yeah, let's just say you're lucky. Let's just say you're lucky that you can live out loud and you don't have to worry about being arrested or have your children taken from you, or whatever the case may be, like polygynous families have to worry about. I wish it was that easy for us. I think same household would make for a stronger family. You can work out problems at the time, yes, Separately is more jealousy. True. I have lived separately and I have lived together under one roof. And I can say jealousy depends on a lot of different things, especially when insecurities are involved. So, you can find women living right up in the same house and there's jealousy. You can find there's women living apart and there's jealousy. It just depends on the husband and the wives and the maturity and communication levels of the adults involved. Um, I'm new to this. My daughter's father now wants to be affiliated with the lifestyle. Can you suggest any way to learn about it? First thing you need to do is watch all my videos. First thing you need to is watch all the videos. Um, Another thing is to understand that this is not necessarily a lifestyle. I kind of like, I don't know, because I think of lifestyle like, you know, exercising is a lifestyle, eating vegan or a keto diet is a lifestyle. But when you go into marriage, I think it's beyond a lifestyle. You know, some would, play on the words. It's not a lifestyle, it's a way of life, whatever the case. But um, one of the things you have to do is you have to be married. So your daughter's father, you guys should have a conversation, and if he considers you a wife, because you don't necessarily have to go to a church or whatever, but if he considers you a wife and he wants another woman, well, first off, he's got to be upgraded from a daughter's father to a husband. First off, we got to get out of that. That man and y'all need to walk around like you're married and claim each other as married first before, you know, you start talking about bringing someone else in. But it's really good that you're having a conversation. So, like I said, watch the videos. Kind of stay off of Wikipedia, because when you Google polygyny and Wikipedia, all kind of stuff come up, and I don't know, but there's a book. There's a couple books back there on that bookshelf. I'll put the titles in the description below. So, anybody that wants information on polygyny, the culture of polygyny, and whatnot, then you can go check those books out. Um, do you think it's okay for a man to have sexual intercourse with his wives at the same time? Listen here, Kendrick. Kendrick, you a grown man. You do what you want to do, Kendrick. You do what you want to do, Kendrick. I can't say, like I said before, when you asked the questions above, I can't say whether it's right or wrong. I know it's something that happens, but I mean, at the same time, that's kind of strange unless you're like anatomically different or something. I don't know your business, but I tend to stay away from these kind of comments because I think it's kind of like borderline disrespectful in a way. And I'll say you should save these types of conversations, especially if they're sexual in nature, for my husband, not for me. I'm going to leave that alone. Um, Also, current polygamy laws give no protection to the other wives or husband and the kids. The laws do more harm than good. Yes, because polygamy is illegal. And in some states, they have cohabitation laws where you can't even claim, that you can't be married on the books and have your girlfriend living with you. Or, you can't be married on the books and say you have another wife. It depends on the state. So I'm not a lawyer, but, you know, um, I don't see too many instances where, I mean, I see instances where it's happening, where families are getting in trouble with the law because of polygyny or polygamy. I'm not well versed on it. I myself, we haven't had any problems with the law, thank goodness. So, yeah, we're just going to keep rocking here. But I will say this. In my opinion, the Mormons have done a great job trying to get polygamy recognized as legitimate again. I do appreciate that. I think it's going to take more than the religious folk, to get polygamy legitimized the way it needs to. And some people might be mad that I'm about to say this, but oddly enough, I think it's going to be the polyamorous community that gets polygyny or polygamy, what's the word? Not legalized, legitimized, because there's some folks over there that are powerful and they are typically not heterosexual. So, pay attention to the laws and the things that are happening, but don't be surprised if that it becomes legitimate because of the LGBTQPZ people and their want and desire to love who they want to love. I mean, they got gay marriage on the books. Who knew, right? Who knew? So don't be surprised if those same people that got gay marriage on the books decide that they want to be bisexual and they want a husband and a wife so that they can procreate. And who is the government to tell them they can't? So you might find out that's going to happen on their backs. So just look out for that. I don't even think you have to honestly be religious to have that type of relationship, though. You don't. You don't. You don't have to be religious to be polygynous. You can be atheist. You can be comedic. You can be whatever you want. The important thing about polygamy or polygyny is to have a proper framework, and people tend to like shy away from the religious polygyny or polygamy, but you'll find that the patriarchal polygyny has a framework that's unmatched. And in that framework, the wives are married to him. There is no women deciding on the existence of the other woman. So I don't know. I like the framework. I appreciate the framework. And most people that are staunch, they don't like religion, they don't like this and that, but you'll find that they like to come on over here because of the framework, and the framework is patriarchal and it is religious based. So that was for you, Stan. I just think the man has to have his stuff together. Financial stability as well as spiritual leadership seems to be critical. Absolutely. If you're a man without a plan, you're not a man at all, and you shouldn't even try to act in the capacity of a man until you have a plan. Let's see. We will do it more on the side of having our own contracts between each other with having wills. That is awesome. Yes, that is awesome. I've heard about the contracts. Um, I appreciate that. For those that are going into having contracts, I would like for y'all to consider for the people that have these contracts written for some money to be set aside to like enforce that contract if stuff happen. Because it costs money to enforce contracts. Like you got to go to court, you got to get lawyers, all sorts of stuff. So I don't know much about contracts, especially legal contracts. I could talk about business though. um, yes, I am poly, but we are a triad. Maybe I stated that wrong. I would marry my triad. I just like to be sexual with all involved. I was under the impression in polygyny you do not. Well, in polygyny, the women do not engage in sexual intimacy together. Again, that's kind of going over there to polyamory, which is cool for you, boo. Like, if you want to be poly and bisexual and all this stuff, go ahead. If you want to marry the triad, I have a question. What happens if he get tired of you? Is she gonna be strong enough to say, nah, you stay? Or what happens if she get tired of you? Is, is the strength gonna be over there? What happens if you get tired of him? Like, I don't know. I don't know much about the triad. I try to stay away from that stuff because I'm not an expert on polyamory, but I can talk about polygyny all day long. So, if you want to marry a triad, great. Like I said, the poly people are probably going to be the ones that get polygyny legitimized. So go for it. There's tons of groups and videos on polyamory and all of that. Um, yeah. Let me know how that works out for you. Okay. Um, let's see. Um, Up to the people involved. What do they do? In my opinion, polygamy, using a broad term, is just a closed multiple marriage to me. It is. It is. Polygamy is nothing. Well, I used to think of it as like polygamy was the umbrella term, and under the umbrella there was like the different little spokes. There was polygyny, which is a man with multiple women. There was polyandry, a woman with multiple men. And then like over there in the cut over there, like on the little tag of the umbrella, at the end there was polyamory. Whatever. But yes, I've always thought polygamy was an umbrella term because polygamy just is a primary person, multiple primary person, multiple marriages or whatever. Um, Somebody just peeked. Primary person, multiple marriages, and then when you get into the Andry and the Jenny, then that's based on anatomy, whether it's men or women. What to do if I get two lazy wives that don't want to raise the kids? Well, if you got two lazy wives that don't raise the kids, sound to me like you have a history of making poor choices. Maybe you should choose non-lazy women that want to raise kids, you know? Or if you know they're lazy and there's no chance of them changing, seems to me like you've got to either raise them yourself or get a nanny. But you chose them, you stuck with them. Let's see. Um, I agree with that. Polygamy has a very negative reputation because of abuse brought on in part by laws making it illegal. Polyamory doesn't have that stigma. No, polyamory does not have that stigma. You can talk about poly this, poly that, poly this, because poly is short for polyamory. Never think that poly is short for polygyny. It is not. I repeat, it is not short for polygyny. Polygyny has no short form. If you talk about poly, you're talking about polyamory. Okay? All right. So, yes, polyamory has no stigma to it at all because, again, homosexual relationships are legitimized nowadays. Um, you will find that your family will be more accepting of you being a lesbian than you saying that you sharing a man. Strange world we live in. Um, let's see. Not really feeling the Facebook groups. They seem too negative most of the times. Do you recommend any other platform? Yes, actually. I will put it in the description box. So what I tried to do is I tried to like create a little community, right? And in the community I tried to create, it is basically strictly based on polygyny. And there's polygyny literature there, there's videos. So I'll also put that at the bottom in the description box. Everybody that's commenting, I need you to have either liked or subscribed One or the other, or both, preferably. Thank you. Now back to the video. I'm an atheist. People should be able to live how they want to live as long as they aren't hurting anyone. I agree. I totally agree. Live how you want to live, just don't hurt nobody. That's your code to live by. I respect your code. I appreciate it. It keeps me safe. But yeah. Kendrick, monogamy is boring for me. Okay. Why? I don't know. I used to want concubines. Oh, right. Kendrick, I wonder what your money looks like because you have a lot of wants and demands and things. So I hope you can afford to facilitate the types of relationships and the things you want because polygyny is not cheap. Neither are concubines. You know, you have to pay for upkeep, maintenance, and housing, and food and provisions for all of these concubines and wives. Let's see. But isn't that the same situation with polygyny relationship? We have been together now for 4 years, so it's been working. Well, good. I'm glad. I'm glad it's been working for 4 years. The people involved. It's all about the people involved. I'm not saying polyamory can't work because that's like me saying that you know the gay uncle that's been married to his lover for 15 years couldn't work. It's something that can work if the grown-ups involved want it to work. That's it's just not my platform. It's not my platform. Um, I'm only getting virgin wives. Listen, Kendrick, you about to get on my nerves. I'm being patient, Kendrick. I'm being patient, brother. But I don't know how to work this thing. Because if I knew how to work it, I would probably stop seeing your comments. You want only virgin wives. I hope you're a virgin yourself. I hope you're not trying to defile some virgins when you haven't been living righteous yourself. Only strike against polyamory is combining a Greek root and a Latin word, monsters. We had that conversation today, actually, yes. Uh, how can me and my wife introduce ourselves to another woman to join our marriage? They think we're going crazy. Well, first thing you do is you introduce yourself, and then once you introduce yourself, then you introduce your wife. Or you guys, I mean, it does seem crazy because polygamy is always attached to some type of sexual deviation. So they might think you're sexual deviants. You just have to educate. That's all I can suggest is just educate the people. Um, but now my video has gone over 38 minutes. Me and my wife are truck drivers who have our own company. That's really good. Have you looked into West Texas and the frac sand thing that's going on there? There's a lot of money over there in West Texas. So if you own a trucking company, you might want to check into that frac sand movement. I hear it's a lot of money in there. And when you do, I'll give you my PayPal for giving you that good advice. It's good advice. So I'm going to end this video. And thank you for watching. I will try to be more punctual next time. But my little veggie burger, because y'all know I'm working on my life over here. My little veggie burger is cold. So I'm going to have to go warm it up so that I can eat. So